started by sort of. I just like to 1 minute. So I thought since it's media and everybody's so articulate, we'll just talk about the topic maybe to begin with.
Right.
And just to add to what you said, आपको हम लोग टाइम देंगे, आपका टाइम भी आएगा. um, I get actually Fatima in the morning. I think you weren't there. A lot of us heard her, and she spoke about this. That it's always about being victim, and then it's about being victimized by the men of the community. So that's the difference in the trope. I mean, otherwise it's pretty much because I was thinking, how is this any different from women? You take away the Muslim, and what is the difference? But sort of she. It's interesting. I teach a course that I have conceived of as a researcher and a journalist. And it's called Reporting the Other India.
Right.
So I teach concepts like agency, advocacy, and things. But so as the midterm evaluation this time, I had given them Muskan Bibi, the poster girl for the hijab controversy, and I said that look, she's been othered. She is completely othered because there are people who are saying that she's an agent, a bikini pehenti actual life mein. There were pictures of her, morphed pictures of her, but now she's pretending to be this. She egged these people on. Shah Rukh Khan has given her a prize. So all of those things making her a certain stereotype. And so I asked the students to do an assignment for me, group work, another her, profile her and another her. It's very interesting. I've done the same thing with Mandavia. I remember the health minister of BJP who was trolled for not speaking. So it was interesting for me to, it was. And here it went to the other extreme. It was bleeding heart. With Bibi, with Muskan, it was like the students did the other thing. They went the activist route. Again, that thing, that balance that you're talking about between complete victim or completely ISI agent, there seems to be no. Is it possible to attain that balance? Does it merit a story when it is not either this or that?
Hello, I don't think this is working, so I think I'll need.
I mean, it does, definitely. As I mentioned in passing when I was giving my talk earlier, so I spent a considerable amount of time with these girls, right? I went to Karnataka and I insisted that, this is something that merits a documentary. It is life-changing. It is... I find myself hard-pressed to describe what these girls are going through. And I think in no shape, way or form can we or should we ever undermine the trauma that they are witnessing, that no one should have to go through. I shouldn't have to sit here and tell you why I'm wearing the clothes I'm wearing. And it is true that it was only a certain type of women, a certain kind of women wearing a certain type of clothing who are expected to answer these questions and who are subjected to this scrutiny, both from outside the community, but even within the community. The liberals, the progressives within the community think it's okay to put her on that chair and ask her to explain her life choices and why she's wearing something that she is, when it has absolutely nothing to do with them. And that infuriated me. That patronizing, condescending tone infuriated me. And even when I went and saw the documentary, and it's on the edit table right now, inshallah it should be out soon. My intention throughout was sure, okay, I have to, I spoke to the ABVP, I spoke to the CFI, I questioned them, the politics, all of that. But my aim was, and I was very clear on that, that because I've grown up in the Muslim community, I have people around me who wear the hijab. My mother chose to wear the hijab like in her 50s, and she's a doctor, she's an MD medicine. Absolutely no force from anyone, but of course, because I have grown up seeing that kind of a woman who chooses to wear the hijab, I understand how easy it is to fall into the trap of anecdotal fallacy. I understand that because this is my personal experience, this will not be the experience of everyone. There are thousands of hijabi girls in Karnataka fighting for their right to access the classroom. Of course, no one can say that all thousands of them, 100% of them are wearing that by choice, or that there is no tutoring, or that there is no coercion, etc., etc. But the point is, and that was my argument, that needs to be besides the point. These are complex human beings. And in the documentary, so for instance, Almas, who's the lead petitioner, she's also a karate champion. So when I met her, she did the karate for me, like in her burqa. Alia is an excellent wildlife photographer. She's like, I love spending time with snakes and photographing them. And no one will tell you that. No one will tell you that, because we don't like seeing hijabi women, Muslim women, but particularly visibly Muslim women, as complex four-dimensional human beings who have desires and choices and outside of their hijabness. And I'm saying even the liberals fall for this.
Did you see any presentation of these girls as real girls, however you want to present it, before what you've done? Have you seen it at all in the media?
I think they weren't ever asked. When I asked them these questions, I didn't see them. And they said this is the first time someone's asking us these questions. What are your hobbies? Something as basic as that. I just asked them. Hiba, who was harassed by a bunch of ABVP men outside her college, and then she had an FIR registered against her. She wants to be an IPS officer, and she's been preparing for it for 5. She's just 19, and she's been preparing for it since she was 12.
So let me just ask, open this to the panel. What is it that is keeping us from doing this kind of reportage? Because all said and done, it's not that the media is completely bereft of sensitive or right-thinking people, or just competent journalists. Let's just call this competent journalism. Let's not call it anything else. This is how it should be. What is it that is keeping us from doing this? It surely can't be our case that there is no one at all in Indian journalism who wants to tell these stories. I mean, you are a younger member of the tribe, and even you. So surely there are many more there. So is it an individual thing? Is it the system thing? Is it that these stories don't sell? Because if we know the problem, then we can address it, right? Because it has to be more than one person's tirade or one person's fight or one person's campaign. This is journalism. This is profession.
Right.
This is a profession. So how do we make it more than just activism? How do we make it about, this is how it should be done. This is a skill. And why isn't it being done? Because there are all of us here.
Thank you. Actually, the problem of this stereotyping and gender inequality lies with the mainstream media, what we are seeing today. And one of the data which I wanted to share with United Nations organization, which was published in 2019. If we see the data, it is very amazing that the whole mainstream media covers 7.5% of gender issues in India. What are the issues? Rest of the other issues, only 7.5% they are covering gender issues. And if we see the main leading newspapers like Amar Ujala, Dainik Jagran, Hindustan, Navbharat Times, Prabhat Khabar, then Punjab Kesari, Rajasthan Patrika, all are leading newspapers. And during October 2018 and to March 2019, they have covered 2084 articles, writers, and 17% are only women specific. See the ratio, if you see, then it shows not only the Muslim issues but as well as other main issues. Yeah, and this out of 600, out of this is the ratio of out of 6,608 articles, and only 17% are women based, and 10% women are contributed out of this 6,806 articles. And if we see the representation of female as a panelist on all English newspapers like NDTV, India Today, Times Now, Republic, Mirror, then the panelists, like there are 1,967 shows, and 1,906 individuals has been invited as a panelist, and only women panelists constitute 15.7%. if we see the 1 year's data, then only the panelists constitute 15.7%. Then there is no equality in terms of when it comes to women empowerment or equality. And most of these news channels, English news channels, has covered 7.5% gender issues. In comparison to Hindi, it is English news channels are less. Yeah. And India Today, which has major contribution, they have 71% as women panelists, in comparison to NDTV, which constitutes 64%. Then still most of the other news English channels are lagging behind. And most of the cases we have seen that female journalists, yeah, anchors are leading in these news channels, because the number of female journalists is 24 out of 20 men journalists. Then here there is a good picture in terms of hosting the show and program wise, but the number of panelists is very less. And if we there are so many if we see the digital media platform, then what we there is the report is saying that 1124 articles are published, but here the number of articles by women journalists is 40%. That constitutes 445 bylines stories in digital media, particularly First Post, News Laundry, Satyagraha, the News Minute, Quint, Wire, and Scrolling. Then the digital media has given a much more advantage to the female, where they can write their stories by line. Then because the main
Why do you think that?
Because it has given independent space. So the thing